So I'm working on a crinkle book, and I just need to sew one more layer and then sew them all together. So I'll show you how to make the crinkle part, and then I'll show you how to put it into a book. So what I did was take this is roughly 5.5 by, I think, just a standard paper length, so like 11 inches. And what I do is I just place this on top, and then I used my round cutter on a cutting board to cut the basic shape. And I just use this form for all of them. Then I cut 2 layers of tissue as well. I don't have a full length for this one, but that'll be fine. And then basically, once you have the fabrics cut out, you'll need 4 total to make, enough pages. So I already made 1, and then you'll just take these ones and put them face to face. So what do they call that? Like the front of the fabrics facing each other, and make sure that, like, like if I had a heart here, I would want the hearts to both be upright so I can read it, so that when they fold inside out, it's not like you turn the page, oh no, one thing's upside down. Just make sure that you have them the direction you want. So like I want my flowers to be like this, because then more are upright. So I'm going to do it like this. So get that nicely evened out on top, and then put your tissue layers underneath those 2, and then pin, and I'll show you the next part in a second. Okay, I have it all pinned up, and as you can see, I marked a start and end point so that I have room to turn it inside out. So give yourself about a 2-inch gap to be able to turn it inside out. So start here, sew around the edges, stop here. I am gonna do a 1/2 inch line, so basically just on the edge of the foot here. And then once I have that sewed around, I make sure to back stitch at the start, back stitch at the end, so everything stays secure. And then I will show you the next part, which is turning out. I am using a standard sewing needle for this project since this is cotton, but obviously you'll have to adjust that depending on the thickness of everything. And I guess, I don't know, if you use like a plastic bag, I don't know what width of like needle you'll need, but this is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and sew those 1/4 inch seams all around, and then I'll show you the next part. Oh yeah, and then I should show you what my settings are. So I just have a basic Singer Tradition. I'm using a straight stitch, and I had the stitch length, sorry about that, about at a 2. Tension, or width I should say, is at 4. So like pretty much straight, and then tension here. I don't really know why I don't have this at 5 for width, but since I've done it so far like this, I'm not going to adjust it. But just so you know, straight stitch, very basic settings, so should be a simple project for you to do. Okay, now I just sewed around, so we're just gonna cut off the excess threading here. And then what I'm gonna do is just kind of cut it just slightly closer, not too close, but like I'll probably cut it to like here, just so it's easier for when it's turned out. And then especially cutting the corners at a diagonal so that there's not so much bunching in the corners. And then I'll show you in a second what that looks like. Okay, now you can see I have the edges cut. This one I like sewed too far, so I had to like turn and like move it over. That's why it looks like that. So I'm hoping this corner turns the same as the others, but this is the same. So now you're just going to fold it inside out. So take this and start pulling everything out from this hole like this, like inside out. That makes sense. And then I have, where did it go? Here it is. I have this little tool that I like to use to do the corners after it's all turned out and to swipe along the edge. But you can even use scissors, just carefully swiping along the edge and poking the corners until they are neatly all the way folded out. So I will do that and then I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, now I have this fully turned out. You can see the corners are nice and crisp. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is take an embroidery needle, 2 strands of embroidery thread, and just a invisible stitch this hole closed. Okay, I have that all sealed up top. You can see it's a little rough. This is the knot to end it. I'm not perfect at it yet, but it looks good overall. So this is my front and back page for this book. So I'm gonna take this other one I have and I'm going to just lay them on top of each other. And then all I have to do is sew down the middle, and that will create the book. And it'll be a cute little crinkle book. The other option you could do is sew along here. So do you like this? That does restrict the openings a little bit more than just sewing a line, but either way would work. All right, so I brought some examples. The easiest way is probably just to do it similar to this one and sew up the middle. They did like 2 lines to kind of give it an actual book look. Another option is to sew up the side here, which would give it more of a binding look. But yeah, I'm adding one of these hook things too, so that the person I'm giving it to can hook it onto things. So I'm just deciding how I want to go about doing this with like adding the hook in correctly. All the ones I see with hooks are binder version, but I really like just the ease of sewing up the center. So what I think I'm gonna do is take this little ribbon, and you could even make this out of any of these materials if you want it to match better. You would just have to obviously cut it and then fold it inwards so the sides are nice, and then I don't know, cut a nice hook size. I think what I'm gonna do is put this behind the first layer, so between the 2 layers, and then I will sew down the direct center of this, and then kind of up here I think I'll just do a little back and forth. So in hindsight, I shouldn't have matched it to this side, but the string should have been matched to this side because now it's visible, but it's okay. It's not that big a deal to me. I'm still gonna keep the white. That just makes this project even easier, not having to rethread everything. But yeah, I'm just gonna line these up perfect. Sew down the center here. You can kind of find that by folding it in half and marking that in, yeah, basically straight up the center. I'm gonna just sew probably a couple times at least. Okay, so you can kind of see it here. So you can also see I kind of messed up my straight line, so I had to redo it the second time. I'm thinking, just so I don't see the stitching, since it turned out kind of ugly, I'm just gonna sew it into like a binding. So that when it opens, it'll be like that and hiding the stitching instead of showing, and then that should also hide this piece here. So I'm gonna do that instead. I think I should have just done that initially, but you know, hindsight 2020. Okay, my machine did get a little funky here and left like a long string, so I had to go back in and do more stitching, which kind of got off centered. So it's not perfect, but for my first time doing this, I'm really happy with how this turned out. As you can see, it's really hiding this thing on the inside. All that ugly stitching is gone. So now it's just this lovely little book. So here is the final product. I really am happy with how it turned out. Next time, I'm just gonna go with the binding idea right away. I was just a little worried because I had this centered so well. I was worried about how it would look if I did binding, but because it's still obviously centered, I don't mind the look at all of the binding. So instead of doing this, I should have just put this one like this way and just sewed that binding right away. So I would just recommend doing that if you're gonna do this. But all in all, this project took me around probably around 11 hours. And that's just because all this stitching, like this side took me 5 hours, this took me like 3.5 to do. So just those things added up. If you were just to sew this, you could probably do this within an hour. I mean, it's very easy, like 4 of the same side fabrics, sewing, turning out, hand sewing shut, and then literally just sewing like this. So if you're just making the crinkly part, it would be easily within an hour to 2 hours for sure. But if you were to do the hand stitching, obviously that will add on the time. One last thing that I will note is because obviously when you fold 2 things on top of each other, the top layer loses some. So you might want to measure that maybe what, a quarter or half inch longer, just because you can see these middle pages are sticking out more, if that matters to you. But if it doesn't, I wouldn't worry about it. But that's just one extra note. Thank you for watching this little tutorial. I hope that you found it fun and informative. I'd love to see what you guys come up with, so be sure to email pictures of what you make, or you could tag me if this is on a social media account, or if you're on Facebook, just put those photos in the comments. I'd be very happy to see the creations you make with this tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.